Okay, so let's quickly dive over here to the next one, which of course is what everyone is talking about today. The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, oh my God, comes out of left field, buys XFL. I don't know what the hell that was. I'm so sorry. So Johnson and Dany Garcia buy XFL for $15 million. If you don't know who Dany Garcia is, that's a person to pay attention to. If you're a Snyder Cut fan, you know who Dany Garcia is, which is why to me I find this to be really interesting. So Dany Garcia is The Rock's ex-wife, and she's his manager. She is one of like the ball busters in Hollywood. This is a high profile, high power lady, 100%. And so they're coming in now to purchase XFL, which is really weird to me because it's like this is something that was when was this big? Like in the early 90s or something like that? It was pretty terrible. I don't know. It just kind of feels like, yeah, like Gary Keir says, this sounds like the storyline from the Rock show Ballers. It does. It really does. Anyway, so let's see here. I lost my place on that one. Okay, let's see what they say. So, the XFL has been sold to a group that includes former WWE star Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, giving the bankrupt football league the kind of star power that may draw even non-sports fans. And there you have it. That's actually the reason right there. The kind of star power that may draw non-sports fans. And The Rock has a large following outside of just being in movies. He's in a lot of stuff. People know him. People love him. I still argue that he's not a movie star because he's not a movie star. If you really look at it, stuff that stars him directly, but when he's in part of an ensemble, does really good. Especially when it's just someone like Kevin Hart, they kind of just keep playing the same characters and people seem to like it. So it is what it is. However, he still has a name and people still like him quite a bit. And this could be something that would get fans to go and check out the XFL, which was not able to be even remotely successful under Vince McMahon. So he teamed up with Jerry Cardinale's Redbird Capital to buy the league just hours before there was a planned auction. So Vince McMahon was just going to get rid of it. He was just going to auction it off, and they came in with $15 million to buy this brand that, all things considered, should be worth more than $15 million. That is how dead of a brand the XFL is. It's not to say that the XFL was ever massive, but it's known. It's a known entity, especially if you are a fan of the WWE or originally the WWF, or if you're a fan of football, the NFL, you might know about the XFL and also go, whoa, WTF is the XFL? Okay, it's pro wrestlers playing football. Like that's really that is what it was known as. And so it just couldn't find its footing because you cannot replicate wrestling with football. It's entirely different, but they tried. Like they were trying to treat it like remember those old Midway games like NBA Jam, I think, or even they did NFL Jam or whatever, like the over the top sports games where it's like all flash and substance or it's all style and pizzazz and everything. This is what it feels like to me. That's what the XFL always felt like. It was meant to be the human embodiment of like an NBA Jam or NFL Jam sort of over the top sports game, and that to me, it kind of seems to work in some aspects because it seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And someone like Vince McMahon, who runs WWE, and it's such a massively popular multi-billion dollar a year industry that's finding ways to expand out there worldwide, you would figure that McMahon would be able to make it work because he's made it work for the WWE. The problem is that you're taking pro wrestlers and putting them in a football scenario. The two don't jive. They do not jive. But apparently with The Rock, they're thinking they can make it work at this point. But it does say here that they paid $15 million, splitting it evenly. Johnson's business partner, Dany Garcia, who's his ex-wife, will be a stakeholder as well. And that's good. She's like that. She's hardcore. Now, the presence of Johnson, meantime, continues pro wrestling's involvement in the Spring Football League, which was founded and funded by WWE Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Vince McMahon. However, the XFL filed for bankruptcy back in April after the COVID pandemic prompted the cancellation of its inaugural season, which got off to a promising start in terms of television audience. The league had a broadcast agreement with Fox. So, maybe I'm doom and glooming it more than, whatever. But like, I always found it to be such a ridiculous concept. And so it does say here that really it's like they were like in the bankruptcy filing, Alpha Entertainment, the XFL's parent company, listed the league with assets and liabilities in the range of about 10 million to 50 million dollars. So they were like, it's worth anywhere between 10 million, $50 million. That's what it's worth. That's what it's valued at. That's what it's here for. And they came in with a $15 million super low ball bid right before this auction, which goes to tell me that that 50 million was something they were never going to get. And 15 is probably the best deal they were going to get. And so really, it's, if you look at the XFL and popularity, it's not very good. It's just not very good at all. It did okay, but even the last time they launched it, it just didn't have a foothold. There's got to be a hook, and the hook can't just be bring in pro wrestlers to play football. It's got to be something else. So if they bring in star power like The Rock, what is he going to do? Like, is he going to sit there and try to real life play like he did on the show Ballers? Is this a way to get Elizabeth Warren to swoon over him even more? But it is what it is. So it says here, the XFL, this is from Ben Bamboo, the XFL is the wrestling of professional sports, which it is. And you figure because of how popular wrestling is, because of how popular professional sports are, it would work. Because on paper, the concept of this works out well. On paper, the idea works out pretty well. Reality, it just doesn't. Okay, I was wrong. It was NFL Blitz. Thank you very much. I played a lot of NFL Blitz back in the day. So there's that. Let's see here. Okay. I'm just saying at this point in time, when we talk about the XFL, we talk about what it could potentially be. I don't know. Maybe go online streaming, maybe like approach it from that perspective, sell these packages. People aren't going to be going back to stadiums anytime soon. We're not going to see anything for quite some time. I mean, you have teams in the MLB that are pulling out. Like, I think 20 teams have pulled out or something like that of this whole season because of COVID. You've got, the football is going to try to make it work with, I think, at Disneyland, or at least the NBA is doing something at Disneyland. But the truth of the matter is, fans, I think, are going to get bored of it real quick. Watching what could be considered an exhibition game from your home couch is not going to be that exciting. The roar of the crowd is going to be something people are attracted to. And if they start digitally adding in crowds and digitally adding in the roar of the crowds and the crowds cheering, I think people are going to catch on that it's fake, and they're just going to tune the hell out. So the XFL at this point has got a long road ahead of it for any kind of relevance, but $15 million is a pretty small detail. That's a pretty small detail. So it's not going to be, it's going to be whatever. Anyway, let's see here. All right. Yeah. It was low ratings originally and nobody watched it. Yeah. I think people watched it, but it is what it is. So, as always, I want to hear what you guys have to say about it with the XFL. Hold on. I think the XFL is pushing the political angle by banning kneeling during the anthem. Well, I mean, that's not going to happen under The Rock. You know what I mean? Like, he's a progressive. I don't think he's progressive, but he's liberal, and liberals aren't going to ban kneeling of it at that point in time. The biggest problem with that is because the NFL and patriotism, for some reason, go hand in hand. Like, if you don't like football and standing for the American anthem, the national anthem, then you're not a patriot. You're not American. It's like, dude, I love my country. I could give two craps if people kneel or stand during the national anthem. Like, I stand and put my hand over my heart like everybody else. That's just what you do. But at the same time, that's what I do. You can do whatever the hell it is you want. I don't care. Trying to make football political, if it's not done, it appeals more often than not to, I think, a lot of right-leaning individuals. Same with NASCAR and banning the Confederate flag and all that kind of stuff. People are going to respond, usually not in the way that you want. So keeping it apolitical and trying to make it apolitical is the best course of action. But really, when it comes to the NFL and the kneeling thing, they screwed up. And if the XFL wants to do it, that's their own fault too.